right, we are live and welcome to FinTalk Network, the Goon Squad. If you haven't yet, hit that like and subscribe button. And let me go ahead and welcome my co-host, part of the Goon Squad, Mr. Juan. Juan, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Bobby. Here chilling, logged off work. Been a bit of a slow off season, but since I missed last week, I pretty much wanted to talk some of the updates that have come out as far as the KD situation.
Yep.
But so far, so good, man. How about yourself?
Brother, I'm doing good, man. I am going fast. Work, obviously, got a full-time job myself, doing the network. Of course, Fins Talk today, Fins Talk overtime. We got Bottoms Up, Fins Up starting tomorrow on the network. I mean, of course, the Goon Squad for the Miami Heat. And, of course, Alex will be joining us shortly, I'm sure. Harrison's, he'll be watching this. If he doesn't, he should be joining us. If not, he's a slacker. And then Neil should be joining us shortly as well. But right now it's just me and Juan, and we brought up the updates, and let's talk about them. Well, first off, earlier in the week, in regards of Kevin Durant, the Boston Celtics have emerged, obviously a rival to the Miami Heat, have emerged as contenders to trade for him, going as far to offer, I think, their second best player, who was actually their best player in the playoffs, especially in the finals, in my opinion, was Jaylen Brown. They went as far to offer him, Derek White, and some draft picks, I think somebody else. But they wanted more. They wanted Marcus Smart or something like that, and they weren't willing to do it. So that negotiation is ongoing. And in regards for the Miami Heat, as you said, it's been a slow offseason, but the Heat have been entrenched in this negotiations with KD. But yesterday, Barry Jackson responded to somebody on Twitter and basically laid out what was going on with the Kevin Durant situation with Miami. That Miami is drawing a line in the sand. They're not going to offer Bam Adebayo at this point. They want to try to keep him and see what they can do there. So we're going to talk about that and what that means for Bam, what that means for his future in Miami, what that means for the Durant situation. I am sure you have plenty to say about that. We're going to talk about if Miami does not make a trade for Durant or make any type of significant trade, if they just run it back with a few other pieces added, what could those pieces be? And if they do add these type of pieces, can Miami actually run it back into the playoffs and be another contender as they were this season? We'll discuss that as well. We do want to have one of our goons waiting in the lobby here, so let's get them in. And that is Alex Atiachisca. Alex,
What's
brother,
up, my
how you
people?
doing, man?
What did I miss, man? What did I miss?
Juan says he's all in on Omer. He's ready to go. All-star. No, I'm just
When you're a goon, you got bad connectivity. So I had some Wi-Fi issues.
I'm really glad Alex is here because, a lot of the stuff he was calling me crazy for a few weeks ago, it's starting to unfold that way, and it's not looking good. So,
In which way?
Well, hold on. We're gonna get to that. I know where you're going. I know. Juan's gonna get the first word here. So
Let me pick up my her. Okay, go.
Let's first start off. I brought up the Boston Celtics situation, but let's start off with the report yesterday from Barry Jackson, because then he wrote a whole article on this, and he's basically said he is, and I don't think no one's more connected right now with Miami. You can't trust Rose, you can't, you can trust them. I don't mean it like that. I don't want to say it that way. But in regards to Miami Heat, the Heat are pretty close knit when it comes to rumors and things coming out. But Barry Jackson is pretty much in the fold when it comes to Dolphins, Heat, etc. So, but he came out and said that the Miami Heat drawing a line in the sand. They're not going to, right at this point, include Bam in any deal for anybody. At this point, they want to try to keep him. So, Juan, right now it's looking like that the Heat are going to run it back. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take the floor. What's your reaction to this with the report with Bam yesterday and with Miami possibly running back with almost the same roster?
Yeah, it's a bit of an uncomfortable situation just because I kind of saw it unfolding this way from the beginning if we waited, and it's the reason I kept saying have some urgency. We need to have urgency. We need to have a plan B or C if the KD situation doesn't move. The last thing you want to do is stay in a stalemate while the rest of the league does moves. And I know a lot of times, like, we've seen teams that do that and it works out, but with how fast the market moves now and just how much power the players have now with the decisions they want to make. A lot of times, if you stay waiting around, other teams are just going to start making moves around you, and you're going to stay the same. A lot of that is what we saw exactly this offseason. We saw teams like Boston start getting better. Brooklyn, they're probably gonna run it back, but even though if they're not gonna be that much of a serious team, it's good for them just because that team doesn't want to lose their stars after one bad season. And you're looking at all these other teams. The Lakers are getting a little bit better, even if they're in the West. But all of that gets in the way. If you want to be a contender, you have to look at the entire league. All of that is getting in the way of Miami really coming back with the same squad and having a chance. Because if we're staying the same and everybody else is getting better, we barely made it through as it is, and we needed a little bit of help from injuries to Joel Embiid and from miracle games from Bam and Jimmy to make it that far. So I just don't see how you try to make fire twice in the rain. You did it once. I don't think you can do it again.
Response, Alex?
Well, I'll make it quick in regards to Juan. You mentioned waiting, that the whole league has gotten better. Even in the Eastern Conference, there's only been two acquisitions. The Sixers with Tucker and the Celtics with Brogdon. Every other team in the NBA per se is at a stalemate. I mean, obviously the Rudy Gobert trade, but there's really no movement right now. We're not losing out on, what are we really losing out on? What players has John Collins been traded? He hasn't been traded. No, there's no traction. Nothing's going to happen until the KD situation is cleared up. That's why you got the Barry Jackson report directly from the front office. Is we have a limit up to where we're going to go. Obviously, we might go a little bit more, a little bit further. But once again, we kept on talking about the cost of acquiring KD. No one has acquired KD because no one is willing to offer what the Nets want. And I'm okay with where we are right now because we really haven't lost out on anything. The only person that we lost out on was Tucker. And if we would have given Tucker what he wanted, we would have been hard capped and we wouldn't even be in this situation. We wouldn't even have a slight chance at KD. And once again, we've talked about this before. When it's a generational talent that comes along, as long as you're not sacrificing to a certain point. Now, when you start seeing other teams start making moves, which you haven't yet, that's why Miami kind of set the tone. It's funny, Miami kind of set the tones now, and I wouldn't be surprised if other teams start making moves now because Miami said what they said. They said it, and this is up to where we're going to go. This is what we're really going to offer. Call me when you're serious about negotiating because we're going to start doing lateral moves to improve little by little. So I'm okay in the situation that we're in now because we really haven't lost out on anyone that could have made a difference. I mean, if you disagree, tell me which name really that has signed elsewhere that could have made a difference for us because I don't see any key free agent that has changed. Like I said, only the Celtics acquiring Brogdon, and that's probably the Celtics move this offseason with Danilo signing as a buyout. I know John Wall signed with the Clippers. So those are situations that I guess they were already predestined. I don't really think it was us waiting for Durant, but I don't really see anything that we've lost out on to question, even to begin to question our pursuit for Durant or waiting on pursuit for Durant.
So this is what I see right now, and it's a lot of times moves around the league will affect you even if you think they don't. And one move that really affected the market overall is the Rudy Gobert trade. The price for players before Rudy Gobert was traded and after Rudy Gobert was traded is completely different. The price for Donovan went up. The price for KD went up. The price for any player that was on the verge of being traded just went up a good 30%. You're adding 1-2 more picks. You're adding one extra player to that value. And before Rudy Gobert was traded is when I was telling you guys, we have to press now. And when I was telling you, it's like you can't just get in the line. You have to get in front of the line and have the urgency. I don't like pivoting back to football, and I'll end it here. But one of the things that Miami did during this offseason was when the Jets got in the line to get Tyreek Hill, instead of Miami waiting for the Jets to do their business and see how they do it and then see how they're going to move, Miami just decided we're going to get in front of the Jets. We're going to make the Chiefs a better offer. We're going to make Tyreek a better offer, and we're going to take this guy home, and we'll worry about the rest later.
So So let me ask you this then, Juan. So in this kind of scenario, though, as the Jets are rivals to the Dolphins in the East, as you say, is that kind of compare that scenario? The Boston Celtics are rivals to the Miami Heat. They were in the finals. They beat the Heat in 7 games. They signed Gallo. They traded for Brogdon. Now, supposedly, they are in the hunt for KD. They offered, who, again, as I said, they offered who I think was probably, obviously their second best player in Boston, in Jaylen Brown, who I thought was their best player in the towards the end of the playoffs, in the finals and in the Eastern Conference. He's consistent. They went out and did it, but of course for the Nets, that report was it wasn't enough. The Nets were like, give me Marcus Smart as well, besides Derek Wright and them, and that's where the Celtics said, wait a second. So now they're countering. So are you saying that Miami should jump ahead of this and say, you know what? No, we can't let Boston get Durant. We need to go ahead and go that extra mile and should include Bam to go ahead and bring in KD.
No, that's what Miami should have done a month ago. Right now, before the price went up, because one of the things that happened in the Tyreek Hill trade is that it was very interesting, because if you look back during that time period, the wide receiver market was messed up by Christian Kirk, because he became the third highest paid receiver in the league at his time of signing. And then from there, the league went in a bit of a stalemate. But the wide receiver bubble is what we see it now, and it hasn't popped yet, because Deebo Samuel might sign for $70 million tomorrow. The thing that happened is that wide receivers that weren't moving as much. The GM saw what the Jaguars did, and they said, that's a disaster. Let's pivot somewhere else. And they started picking up a little fullback here, a little running back there. Let me pick up third string wide receiver. And then the big move started happening. Like you saw AJ Brown going to the Eagles. Then you saw Tyreek going. But it was teams getting aggressive. It was teams getting tired of the stalemate and saying, we're going to go ahead and do it. It's very different now looking at the NBA, because it's not the same thing between the Celtics and the Heat than the Dolphins and the Jets, because the Heat and the Celtics are both top dogs in their league, while the Dolphins and the Jets, and I know there's a lot of Dolphins fans that watch this show and they probably expect them to be better, but for the most part, they've been a butt joke of the league along with the Jets for the better part of the decade. So with that being said, the way those teams have those tactical battles and what the Heat and the Celtics are doing, completely different. The Miami, the game of chess isn't as complex over in the AFC East between, I don't want to call them the Dolphins a bottom feeder, but I mean, they're
don't do that
either. So they're mid. The Celtics and the Heat, right now what the Celtics are doing, they're offering Jaylen Brown because they know the Nets won't bite on that. And they know that if they put pressure on Miami, maybe they get Bam out of the division. And yeah, I'm willing to let you get KD if I know there's a 50 to 60% chance that in the next 2 years, he's going to want out of your organization. And not only that, he's not only going to want to leave your organization, he's going to leave it in ruins in the process of doing so. So I think teams right now are saying, we want KD, but the price for KD is way too much. Like we're making a lot of NFL and NBA comparisons right now, but a 28-year-old wide receiver is not the same as a 34-year-old shooting guard who relies heavily off not heavily off his athletic ability, but needs his athletic ability to get in his bag, and had an Achilles injury just 2 years ago. So it's a game of tactics right now.
So, man, so let me get this clear. Right now, they should have made this trade a long time ago. They should have offered Bam a long time to get this deal done. That's what you're saying. But now you're saying, dude, they should have just dropped out and go and get somebody to improve the team. If it was going to take
what I said a month ago, go out and get Bam and get KD now. If you do not want to get KD, go out and get the pieces now. Because now even John Collins is going to be more expensive, because Atlanta's going to turn back and look at you and say, look what Rudy Gobert just went for. Yeah, Rudy Gobert is a great defensive player, but he gives you no offense in an offensive league. So if you want John Collins, this is what is going to be a different type of back that he's giving your team, and he's going to cost you this much. And that's the reason not only Miami is not making moves, a lot of the league is not making moves because of that.
But
Everybody's waiting on KD.
But you said Miami and the Heat and the Celtics are top dogs in their conference. The Boston Celtics and Miami Heat are top dogs. So hasn't the Heat afforded themselves a chance to wait out the Durant deal? Because if they're still top dogs in the East right now, they could afford themselves to wait it out to see if they could get this deal done, because they're still a top team in the East. I mean, if they're still one of the top dogs, they should be able to say it's not like the Atlanta Hawks who made the trade for Murray. You know, they're a good team, but they're not where the Heat or the Celtics are. They had to make
where
that
the
trade
Heat
for
was
Murray.
2 years ago. They were playing for a place in the finals 2 years ago. So they were in we first rounded them this year, but who's to say they're not gonna bounce back? So you have the Hawks, you have Philly, you have Boston. You don't know. Knicks are not gonna do anything, but they could be a problem. And if your team is not well equipped in a best of 7, anything can happen. If you just want to go physical and gritty versus physical and gritty, there's a lot of teams in the East that you gotta take out before even getting in the contender spot. So Miami is a contender now, as we left the season, but going into it, 10 games in, they could easily be out of that conversation already.
I know Alex wants to respond, but I just want to say, just to continue. I mean, I get where you're coming from. However, when I do look at Boston, yes, I'm all for Miami waiting out Brooklyn until they realize, and then Durant needs to say it. You know, he needs to say, no, I want to go to Miami. Makes the other teams difficult for him. You know, but if, you know, in regards to the Boston thing, if Boston wants to jump in on the Durant trade, I would try to do what I can not to make that happen without trying to give up too much to deplete my team, but still getting it done, because Durant on the Celtics with Tatum and whatever else will have on their roster, which is still a very good roster, it's dangerous for the East. But if Brooklyn remains the same and Durant remains in Brooklyn and Boston has gotten a lot better, absolutely. They just left the finals, but they have definitely improved the team. They're not sitting on their hands. Miami was lost in Eastern Conference Finals in Game 7. They haven't really done much. They re-signed a lot of their guys minus PJ Tucker. So obviously you need to replace Tucker plus add a starting 4, which Tucker was. So I don't think the Heat would fall too far behind in the season. I think the Heat could still be comfortable in the playoff, get into a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to be a play-in. Where I'm concerned with Miami right now is the playoffs. That's where I think the needle hasn't moved. Alex, I'll let you go ahead and respond as we could talk about possible options that he could do to help this roster. Because there's still, as you said, there's still options out there in free agent or via a trade. But go ahead, respond to what Juan was saying.
So I'll respond when you made the analogy of the Tyreek Hill situation. It's not only that the Dolphins went ahead and offered a better package. To my understanding, Tyreek Hill had the choice between the Jets and the Dolphins. So no matter what package was being offered, Tyreek Hill picked the Dolphins. Different situation, brand new contract. We understand how the NFL and NBA differs. Durant has a 4-year contract that he just signed, I believe, last year, the year before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So you have leverage. Absolutely, you got leverage. Still, when he demands a trade, part of that leverage is gone because you have a superstar that no longer wants to be there. When we compare the Rudy Gobert trade, I mentioned it to Bobby the other day. People look at the compensation that they got back. Oh, they got 5 players, 5 first-round picks. All I think about when the Rudy Gobert trade is 5 first-round picks because none of those players that the Mavericks traded are core players. You can argue, Pat Beverly, obviously, but that was just a salary match. So it was kind of an inflation tool, what happened. That's why a lot of GMs around the league, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tim Connolly did it not even on purpose because he was sabotaging the whole league. He knew what he was doing. He was going to pick his chance. He didn't need offense. He got Anthony Edwards. He got Russell. He got Karl Anthony Towns. So he has a balanced team. He just needed a center. And experiment-wise, I'm intrigued to see how that works out. So that's me reasoning. If I'm the GM for Minnesota, why would he do that? Now, when we pivot back to the Heat and even the Donovan Mitchell situation with the Knicks, Once again, this trade, just the offer came out now that the Celtics offered Jaylen Brown. I'm 100% sure. I'm willing to bet my life on it that trade offer was done the moment KD requested a trade. It's just coming out now to the public view. And it, coincidentally, if you notice, that's the chess game. That statement comes out from Woj, and all of a sudden the statement comes out from the Heat the following day. So we know what we're doing here. These people know this isn't their first rodeo. They know exactly what we're doing. I'm 100% sure Pat Riley and our front office already has the levels, the limit of what they will go to acquire Durant. But also, you're not going to toy around, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to trade, and I'll still say it, Bam Adebayo, no matter what. If KD really wants to come and, like Bobby mentioned, forces his way to a certain team, then that price goes down. Then you got to get the best package available. Your best picks available, your best resources, any players you're going to get back to max salary, get a third and a fourth team involved. But there's a reason we're at a standstill. And there's a reason that this standstill is going to keep on until KD comes out and says what he wants to say. It's either I'm going to stay with the Nets, which I have a feeling he might be leaning towards that. Because, honestly, of all the teams that you're trading, KD is possible traded to. There's very rare instances where the team that he's getting traded to is going to be as competitive, quote unquote, with him, because if what the Nets are asking for, you're removing talent. So does KD want to go play? Like we mentioned it before, does KD want to play Miami if Bam is gone? I know Jimmy Butler's enticing, you got other pieces, but that also, plays into effect of what you're going to send back. And as an organization, you see with Bam is 25 years old, a generational talent as well. You don't really have to move in the aspect of we didn't know KD was going to be available. We didn't know Donovan Mitchell was going to be available. Look at the Suns. They're not going to talk about the Suns the way about the Heat. If we don't get Durant, the Heat are going to get all the news, that we failed again, by the local media, by the local fans. We didn't act on time. We didn't do this. What did Phoenix do? Phoenix is technically bringing back their same exact team. The Aiden situation kind of could be our hero situation. And I was telling Bob before, I think hero, if that's the number one key.
Hero?
Huh?
Do you just compare DeAndre Ayton to Tyler Hero?
Absolutely, I did. That's their DeAndre Ayton is our Tyler Hero. When it comes to the situation of mesh, you're not going to lose him for nothing. He's a piece that you would have traded, but they basically maxed out. I don't think we're going to max out.
Suns have a generational talent as an asset, and we have a 6th man of the year who has inflated stats and will probably have a big decline next year.
What are you talking about, man? The Suns have Devin Booker. That's a generational talent. Aiden is an above-average center, very talented, great rebounder, a mesh piece, but they were willing to trade him.
The stats of DeAndre Ayton versus Bam Adebayo, and you call Bam a generational talent.
Yeah, but defensively, have you seen Bam Adebayo compared to DeAndre Ayton?
At the end of the day,
you can't compare them.
You can look at the numbers all you want, but the type of player that DeAndre Ayton had a much bigger impact on the court until he stepped in front of Giannis. And everybody knows that any player that steps in front of Giannis is going to get fooled. So
and you can mention that hero scoring
I'm not saying that
was
Bam
a complete
is bad.
difference maker.
I'm not saying that Bam is bad, but you're dismissing Ayton as just another guy. No.
I'm using Ayton as the hero situation.
Hold on. He has a very good argument to be compared to Bam. So if that's the case, you can argue that they're both generational talents. And if that is the case, that means that the Suns' Tyler Hero is 10 times more valuable than ours because they have real value in that. They have a player that teams actually want. How many teams want Tyler Hero right now compared to DeAndre?
A lot. Well, DeAndre Ayton, only cap-wise, it was the Pacers. No one else called about Ayton because they knew it was going to be available. And I can make that same argument with Hero and Mitchell when you're trying to compare asses and generational talents.
As soon as Ayton, the possibility of Ayton hitting the market, hit the news media, it blew up because people know what that is and the market knows what that is.
Okay, but what traction? What traction did it lead to?
What
traction did it lead to?
He was going to sign with the Pacers.
He signed with the Pacers. That's it. The Nets didn't want him. If the Nets would have wanted him, they would have traded Kevin Durant. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I was trying to say is Ayton is our hero. Like hero is our Ayton, the situation. Sorry. Where we haven't maxed Hero, we haven't given him a contract extension because he could be traded. The moment we sign him, He's not going to be traded. And teams know. Teams are not going to ask you for Jimmy Butler. Teams are not going to, they might ask you for Bam, but they're not going to ask you for Bam. Teams always ask for the second, third best player because that's something that you would trade. And right now, I still believe that Bam and Jimmy are in that tier that don't ask me about it. Maybe last resort, like you want to throw it out there and be funny about it, and I'll think about it. But they know the worth that Bam has. Bam has more worth than Aiden. I think we can all agree on that. Bam carries more weight than Aiden.
In Miami, people agree with you 100%. But
in Miami, come on.
It gets very 50-50, Alex. It gets very 50-50. And you're splitting hairs.
Is that even a debate? If you had to start a franchise and you had to pick between Bam and Aiden, is that even a debate?
But after the Suns made it to the finals, it was a debate because DeAndre Ayton was a huge factor in that until he stood in front of Giannis. And that's the reason the Suns couldn't close it. Remember, they were in 2-0. And who?
You just said it right there. Bam shut down Giannis. Bam shut down Giannis.
Exactly. He was holding his own for 2 games. And then Giannis turned on Super Saiyan. Nobody can stop Giannis. You're prime Shaq, man. And even then, like, I don't.
You can contain him. You can't shut him down. I get that part. But I'm right now, Juan.
30 points. This is a man who dropped. Like, he was going up against a man who dropped 50 in the final game to close out the series, and I think he went 90% from the free throw line when he was getting fouled. Which
was his only weakness, and now it's non-existent. Basically, it's shooting only.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like nobody, no big man would have stood in front of Giannis that night and handled him. Nobody. I don't know. People are like, "Oh, he got bodied in the finals."
Alex, I have to ask you this. Because I would you trade Bam for Giannis?
Would I what?
Would you include a Bam in a trade for Giannis?
For Giannis, yes. That's the only player I would trade Bam.
Okay, we're good.
That's
it.
That's it. Okay. That's it. I'm not crazy. I'm not just a homer. I know basketball.
Waiting, bro. I was waiting.
That's like a prime Jordan for Bam. Of course I would trade Bam. I love Bam. But this is when it comes to stage. Durant is 35 years old. It's still Kevin Durant. I mean, 34.
It's still Durant, though. I mean,
it's still Durant.
For how long?
Giannis is 27, 28. You got 6 years of prime there, man. This is people don't realize it. It's just we're looking at the name. But if you put any other player age-wise, even with their stats and age, you're like, wait a second, I can't trade Bam Adebayo for that.
So
which I'm go.
Okay. No, you're good. So let me just ask you both this, okay? And quick answers, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
Juan, is the KD to Miami trade dead? Should Heat fans just let it go?
100%. The Nets are going to run it back, and Miami's going to run it back.
Alex?
I don't think it's dead until Tyler Hero signs his extension. There's still a possibility, but we need KD's help.
Got you. Okay.
Tyler Hero, that's nice of you.
Juan, we're going to talk next year. We sign Hero, man. We're going to talk next year. We're going to go to games together. We're going to sit down. As Hero drops 35 points, and I'm just going to look at you like this. You're going to be like, you see? Just like that, man. Just like that. Or if you sit to my left, I'll look at you like this.
You're just going to get shut down by Mikel Bridges, and I'm going to be like, there goes my $200.
Wow. Okay.
Jesus Christ. And Aiden's going to be riding the bench.
Okay, hold on. So, look, wait, there's some positives to look at. There's a positive way to look at this, okay? So, let's say Durant trade does not go down. Mitchell trade doesn't go down. He goes to the New York Knicks or some shit. Whatever. Kyrie, more than likely, is not going to Miami because Miami's about the team and Kyrie's about the guy. So, let's say Miami does come back with everyone. Adding a few players minus PJ Tucker. But Kyle Lowry's in the best shape of his life. Comes back in the best shape of his life, ready to go. Tyler Hero is out to prove that he should be a starter. Jimmy Butler's busting his ass as he always does. He comes back in great shape. The 4 is a question mark. Bam Adebayo. I think all Heat fans, whether you think you should include him in trade for Durant, which is understandable. I don't argue with people on that because Durant is Durant. But Bam Adebayo does have a ceiling I don't think he's reached yet. I'm not sleeping on him. No, I don't want to say it like that. I'm not holding my breath that he's going to start making threes or anything like that, like some people think. But I think there's a part of his game that hasn't come out yet. I want to see him to be more aggressive than passive. So let's say he is more aggressive. Let's say, even though he does things that people don't recognize a lot of the time. Jimmy Butler is back to himself and, is still getting better as he goes along here. Tyler Hero hits that second level. Kyle Lowry's in his best shape. That's pretty, and with the rotational players that we do have, that's still a pretty damn good roster. But here's the question mark: the 4. Caleb Martin. I like Caleb Martin. I'm happy that he re-signed. I think he's a great rotational piece, but he should not be the starter. Omier, I'm intrigued by potential, but I'm not sold on him being a starter, especially in this East. You put your finger down. So let's talk a little bit about potential options. I know, Alex, you and I talked about it a little earlier. You brought up Carmelo as a possible thing, as a possible option. So hold on. It's like, what? Okay, but look. So let's talk about players that reportedly have been linked to Miami. Let's first talk about a former All-Star, dunk master back in the day. He had an okay season last year with Brooklyn. But the Heat, there's a report from Sean Devaney from Heavy.com that he said that he could show interest in Blake Griffin. This is what he said, quote unquote. He made a big impression around the league with the way he played against Boston, even though it was just a couple of games. The Eastern Conference exec told Heavy, that's what he told Heavy, the Eastern Conference exec. So, Juan, I'll start with you, and Alex, you go ahead. Man, what do you think of this? How would Blake Griffin fit? Is he a better option at the 4 than Caleb Martin? If you get the best version of him right now, through that series with Boston, can he help the Heat kind of keep on par with the East as it is?
No, it's fool's gold, and unless you're adding a borderline all-star caliber player that is not just filler, you're looking at pretty much what you said, Bobby, is what Miami did last year, minus PJ Tucker, is coming Tyler Hero trying to prove himself again after having a sophomore slump. Jimmy playing his ass off. Like, all this stuff already happened, and we still needed Joel Embiid to get hurt and the Hawks to have injuries and all these miracles. So
you said that's the second time you said it, so I have to ask you this. Do you think the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, do you think that was a fluke?
I don't think it's a fluke, but I don't think it's sustainable. Because that is, you're asking Jimmy to dig into a place that doesn't exist, and very few athletes across any sport can dig into that bag. And I think it's a phenomenon to have Jimmy, who's an athlete that although he grinds with the best of them, he's not at the peak of talent of some of the other greats that have reached into that zone. He manages to do that. And because he's not at that level, and he looks very human, even with these supernatural performances, you don't know how deep that hole is. You don't know how many more stabs at it he can take before you go on to grab into that again, and there's nothing there. So that's what scares me. And it's when it's Jimmy and a prayer. I think the best case scenario is what we saw last year, and we saw mostly everything go our way except that final shot to get us that spot in the finals. I think that was as the best that it got with what we currently have. That's I imagined it and the best it could be. And when I was looking at the bracket when the playoffs started, I said Miami for sure can get to the finals, and they were one shot away from making it. And then what I said, once they get to the finals, anything can happen. But I said Miami is my pick to get to the finals. Now the vision I had, like, it came to life, and although it wasn't exactly how I pictured it, because obviously I had us going to the finals and possibly getting lifting the trophy in the end, I saw what it looked like, and it was very close, but it just wasn't enough. And when it's not enough, you got to go out there and get a quality piece. And if you don't get a quality piece, you're just running it back with a different version of the same team you had last year, which is Jimmy Butler, and crossing your hands for a prayer.
Alex, so sticking with, or you could talk about the possibility of a Blake Griffin, but let's talk about another player as well. Heavy.com wasn't done with possible options for Miami at the 4. Let me see here. Ryan Austin of Heavy.com spoke to an NBA source and saying that the Heat are viewed as favorites to sign former Six-Man of the Year Montrezl Harrell. Miami would be, this is quote unquote, Miami would be one team to look out for, especially if they make a big move and they have a lot of roster holes they need to be filled on the cheap late in the summer. They need another big guy either way. He could be sitting there. Depends on the case, goes away or what. So Blake Griffin, Montrezl Harrell, you brought up earlier today, possibly Carmelo Anthony. I'm not against that. I know people can roll their eyes, but the only reason why I'm not against it, other teams, I like the Lakers. I wasn't nervous when Carmelo signed with the Lakers. Everybody go, who's beating this team? They always do the same shit every year. They put a bunch of people together and go, who's going to beat this team? Everybody, But the reason why I like Carmelo in Miami, and I want you to talk about Montrezl Harrell, Blake Griffin, and even Carmelo, of course.
Yeah.
But it's because of the system of Miami, the organization, the development, the training. I think you could get the best version. I'm not saying his peak version. I'm saying best version of them right now. So tell me, man. So this Montrezl Harrell, Blake Griffin, you're talking about Carmelo. What options could be at the 4 for Miami, bro? Run it down for us.
Look, I have a few options, and I want you guys to be open-minded, especially you, Juan. You got to be very open-minded what I'm about to say.
Especially you.
The reason I said Carmelo is because what you're missing at the 4, really, people are going to continuously compare it to PJ Tucker. You're not going to get another PJ Tucker right now. The closest thing to a PJ Tucker right now, it's already on the roster. In Highsmith, in a Martin, maybe. You're not going to get the same style of player, the same defensive menace that PJ Tucker was. That was a dynamic that I want people to remove from their minds for a second from the Heat past. This year, I firmly believe Heat are going to go different style of offense. So you're going to see probably our metrics defensively lower a little bit and our offense uptick a little bit. Now, we have a few options, outside options, Bob. I mentioned Anthony because of a plug-in hole. What you need there is a scorer. Defensively, you got Bam. Just defensively, if Lowry stays, you got Lowry, Butler, and Bam. You got 3 above average, 1, 2 elite defenders in that unit. So defense won't be a problem there. Carmelo's a great rebounder, even for his age. He's a pure scorer. So Carmelo opens up the floor, opens up the lanes for the Bams, for the Butlers. And that's one of the reasons that I want to start Hero. Because if you notice, Spo, late in the season, he started making more time, on-court time, for Hero and Bam, for their pick-and-roll offense. Those numbers flourished. The team flourished in the first round and in the second round before Hero got injured. What really catapulted the Heat offensively in those series is it wasn't Jimmy Butler. It was the pick-and-roll for Hero and Bam. Obviously, Butler took over when needed, but we won a few games even with Butler out there. I know the competition was different. But even for the 4s, I'm a big believer in you have a few options. Some people even talk about playing Jimmy at the 4. The metrics there offensively, Jimmy at the 4, and Jimmy played a lot of the 4 last year, and people don't realize that. When you have the metrics there offensively, they're astronomical. Why? Because it's a quick team. It's offensively, you have another shooter there, so you have more spacing, which that's the reason you had Duncan Robinson. And I'm not talking. I know there could be a reemergence of Duncan Robinson, and he still has some things to work on. But most likely or not, the success of this offseason to the regular fan is if we can rid ourselves of the Duncan Robinson contract, move it for the missing 4 and for the logjam that we have. Because right now we have a lot of similar players in regards to those depths, like the Strus and Robinson. Now, do you prioritize Strus? Do people even talked about starting Strus if you start Butler at the 4? This is what just me personally, what I want to see. I would like to see them part out with Bam at the 4 and start Omer at the 5. If that doesn't happen, I know Omer's going to be a rotational piece, but I'm intrigued what Bam can do on the wings as a 4, like a free-flowing offensive juggernaut that he could be. Consistent jumpers. He might shoot 1 or 2 3-pointers a game. I'm not saying he's not going to start shooting 4 or 5 threes a game, but you are going to see a more consistent 15 to 17, 18 touches a game for Bam.
Let me ask you this, because you brought up Omer, and I know you're.
Yes.
Does that move the needle in the East with the current teams? Should the Heat right now, as they are, whether they get a Durant or not, they're still a competitive team in the East. They still can compete in the East. So, but are they at a spot right now? I mean, to me, putting Omer at the 5 is more as like when you are in a lower level, like you're not expected to make the playoffs. You're experimenting to see what you got in this guy. Like when the Heat had Hassan Whiteside. They would have they didn't have no other option, and then they found fool's gold, in Hassan Whiteside. So, to me, like, are you actually comfortable? Like, or to me, is that a last resort? Like, I understand if it's a last resort, but are you comfortable actually going? No, man, we should. If we can't get Durant, we're going Omer at 5. Like they should.
I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable by what I've seen. This is just me. I'm comfortable playing Omer with Bam. Because one of the reasons that not only scoring, but one of the things that killed us against the Celtics was low post defense and rebounding. I know you guys remember the series. Robert Williams at times killed us when Bam wasn't out there. And I'm not saying Omer and Bam are always going to play together. You might see this. I'm open to this. Omer will be part of the rotation, either as a backup 5 or starting next to Bam. In my opinion, I'm okay with Omer starting next to Bam because it opens up Bam's game, especially if Hero starts. I'm okay with a lineup of Lowry, Hero, Butler, Bam, and Omer. I think it would unleash a whole spectrum if you let Omer shoot too. Remember, one of Bam's most successful years and one of these units' best years was when Myers Leonard was starting next to Bam. People forget about that because of the whole controversy with Myers Leonard, and he got hurt. But we started that year. Myers Leonard was our starting center. Well, our starting power forward. Bam was technically the center. But what did Myers do? He spread the floor. Omer can do that same thing and is even tougher and a better rebounder than Myers Leonard. People don't see that. I see him either as a starting 5 or as a rotational piece. Now, if you go with Bam still as your 5, one outside option that is intriguing to me, if you want to move Duncan Robinson, is still Harrison Barnes. That is one that will move the needle for me he slides right into our spot. A decent 3-point shot. I believe he's 39% or 40%. Because one of the main problems also that we have, not only about the 4, is the log jam that we have with our backcourt players. Because we got, even as a backup unit, you're going to have Vincent and Oladipo. That's a shoo-in. You're going to have Strus if he doesn't start. You're going to have Martin. Martin will play. I wouldn't start Martin. I agree with Juan there. I don't see Martin as a starter. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I don't see him because I think he's more of the athleticism off the bench. With the Vincents, with the Oladipos, because I believe Hero's better suited to play with Bam. And even with Lowry, defensively, that helps out as well. When you got Vincent and Oladipo coming in, you got 2 defensive dogs and decent shooters as well. So I'm okay with that. Who?
Do you think Max Strus is a starter?
In our system, yeah. He could start. Like he started last year. Our best offensive output was Max Strus starting.
He was a starter in the playoffs because we had no one else. But
no.
Big deal. Max Strus cannot be your starting shooting guard.
Absolutely, 100%. If you have, depending on your team, absolutely.
Yeah, but if you have Tyler Hero,
what other team that gets to the conference finals is Max Strus the starting shooting guard besides the Miami Heat? Out of the 4 teams last year that were left, what shooting guard position is Max Strus taking from any other team?
Well, you're comparing Max Strus now to like a Jaylen Brown or to a Tatum. You can't do that. But it's the team that you have. No.
Those are the players you need at that position.
Oh, what other team will Bam start at center? Bam will start at center over maybe except Joel Embiid. So you can't do that. You can't compare them because it's depending on the team that you have.
But Bam is a starter. Max Strus is not a starter.
He was a starter. We were successful with him as a starter.
Actually,
Max Strus wasn't the problem.
I understand what Juan's saying though.
Yeah, but you're just going by name.
But no. But but you can't take away the fact that when Strus did start, that he did very well. He did earn those starter minutes, I think. But again, I think it's more Juan for me, at least my 2 cents on it. I get the point you're saying. And I get, I think Tyler Hero is probably gonna get those starting minutes. And my question would be for Alex is Tyler Hero deserved to be the starter over Strus because of what Strus did when he was the starter. But I think it comes here. My 2 cents. I'm sorry. It's the system. It's the system. The Heat have a system where they get the best out of players that wouldn't be starters anywhere else. Duncan Robinson, Hassan Whiteside, I mean, what else can I mean? You know,
But it's enough of that, Bobby. When it's about to be 10 years since LeBron left, and it's trust this, we're gonna develop these guys, and it's always we can be really good, but it's not great.
But they have shown that they can be competitive. It's just things happen, things don't go their way. This is my thing. Yeah, it's been 10 years since
things are always gonna get in the way, though. You need a guy that's why you need that talent to overcome that.
But that's what that's what the Heat have been able to. You know, they were able to get Jimmy in his deal. You know, bring Jimmy to start reaching the next level. But they get other players where they don't have to spend as much because like other teams. Look what Brooklyn did. Brooklyn gave up the farm to get Kyrie, KD, and James Harden. Where did it lead them? Nowhere. They're in a mess. They got Kyrie. Kyrie convinced KD to go. Boston did the same stupid thing. They signed Kyrie. Where did it get him? Absolutely nowhere. You can't force something to happen. Sometimes it has to be as Alex's way. And I don't know.
You have to take.
It's organic, but this is why, like, if KD says tomorrow, look, I don't want to go to Boston. I don't want to go here. I don't want to go to Toronto. Only Phoenix and Miami. That's when when he physically says those words out loud. It's not a report. It's him saying it. That's when it becomes that type of deal. But the way the system is in Miami is where, there's players like a Strus, like a Duncan, like a Caleb Martin or whatever, that people go, where the hell was this guy? The Heat had that system. That's why it's attractive for players like Donovan Mitchell and KD and Kyrie, LeBron, whatever. It's attractive to them to go, man, I want to go play in Miami because they know what to do. Look what the Lakers without LeBron are trash. They don't know how to develop. They don't know how to sign. They don't know. The Heat don't do that. The Heat can develop guys out of nowhere. That's why I'm not really concerned with it.
And remember, Juan, you can't.
That go, Alex, go.
No, go. I'll wait for you, man.
The thing becomes that now you're like, oh, we're so good at developing, we don't have to get this big name. We'll just get
no.
But I'm not saying that's what you're suggesting.
Okay.
But by the way history has been played out, that's what the Heat have been doing. Like and we want it to change now.
I get that.
But that's what they have been doing. And Alex, I appreciate the creativity for like the way you're trying to build up the roster, and like all of us as Heat fans want to get this roster better. But if we're being completely frank, what option that you just laid out beats the 2021 Miami Heat in a 7-game series? I don't think any of them, because PJ Tucker can put any of those players that you mentioned in jail, and then Jimmy takes the rock, and then Victor takes their small point guard or their shooting guard and puts them in a log. And then it's the Jimmy show, and then you get Bam to give you 2-3 buckets here. You get Tyler to give you 2-3 buckets here.
You got it.
And they put him out.
But see, what you're doing is comparing the 2021 Heat with how the 2022 Heat are going to play. What you're not taking into account is a change in offensive philosophy, a fitter, Kyle Lowry, the next evolution of Tyler Hero, the next evolution of Bam Adebayo. His what?
He still needs screens to get his shot. Tyler can't make his own shot. He can create. That's like saying Steph Curry. Steph Curry shoots off screens constantly. Yeah, but if the shot clock is running down and he has nothing to do, he can get in his bag.
Tyler Hero can do. Man, Tyler Hero can do that. Tyler Hero can create his own shot. He can create his own offense.
Yeah, but Juan, I just want to clarify because Juan's been consistent with this with Tyler Hero. Juan, I just want to make it clear, brother. You weren't on the last show. I talked about it, was the max deal. Tyler Hero seeking a max contract from the Heat, 4 years, 125, 131, whatever it's going to be. 32 million is the yearly, unless he works out a deal. Should Miami sign Tyler Hero to a contract?
Did they? No, because I mean, Tyler Hero was he better than Lou Williams with the Clippers 2 years ago? Lou Williams wasn't getting that type of money.
What?
He was.
Tyler's 22 years old, man.
He's the best six man we've ever seen.
What is this?
I know, Tyler. I know the NBA works. It's like you gotta give him this deal because he's up for it. And if we don't give him this deal,
no, you don't give him the max. You're not gonna give him the max. It's the Jaylen Brown contract, the 120.
Exactly, and look, the level between Jaylen Brown and Tyler Hero is
no. Look, it's funny. You got to look up the stats. Jaylen Brown, the same age that Tyler Hero when he was compared wise, because I remember we talked about a few shows ago I think we talked about the comparison between Jaylen Brown and Tyler Hero.
3 times the defensive player Tyler was at that time and is now.
But at that time, he wasn't as offensively gifted as Tyler Hero.
And now he has the defense and the offense, and Tyler just the offense. And he's never going to get the defense.
That's 2 years ago. That's 2 years ago, man. It's part of the evolution. But you can't just let Hero go. Kind of like that's why I compared Aiden. Imagine if the Suns were pursuing Durant, right, and they let Aiden walk away.
That's like letting Bam walk away 2 years ago.
Who? Yeah, that's you don't do that.
2 years ago.
No, yeah, but even with Hero, if the reason Hero hasn't signed an extension is because we still are waiting for Durant. The moment you see Hero sign his extension, you can stamp it. There's no Durant going anywhere. Or if there is, then Bam is involved.
When we sign him, there's still like a chance. It's probably like locked in, but there's still a chance that you sign him and you can move him if they get a good deal.
You gotta wait a year. No, you got to wait a year.
He made a lot of good moves.
You wait till December.
Somewhat Whiteside.
It's December.
And now Tyler Hero is up next. Those are 3 players that fit very similar prototypes in the fact that they were both fan favorites, promising, and ended up on horrible contracts due to those 2 factors adding up.
No, but you can't compare Tyler Hero to them, man.
Yes, you can if he gets that same type of deal. Because if he gets signed to a max contract or anything close to that big type of money, he's not gonna perform to it. He's not Hassan Whiteside. You saw Tyler Hero peak versus Boston in the bubble, and he hasn't been able to break that since. It's been 3 years.
Okay, what do you mean
man.
So hold on. So Juan, so just to clarify, you think so? You're like. Because that's how I felt about Hassan before he signed the deal. Alex and I argued against this.
Yeah.
So
I argue you just had to give him the deal because he was going to get it no matter what. We're going to lose everybody. Right. You had to give him that deal.
I was against signing Hassan Whiteside to a max contract because I said I was afraid that once he wasn't going to be who we thought he was, but also I was afraid how he was going to be when he got that deal. It turned out the way I said it. But is that how you truly think about Tyler Hero, that he should not sign because he's reached his peak? He's not going to go past that point. It's not going to do anything to reach that type of deal.
Yeah, I feel 100% that way. And Alex, you told me that Jaylen Brown was no defense. I mean, all offense. All defense, no offense 2 years ago. And you tried to angle it in a way that Tyler is all offense right now, and maybe he could develop defense 2 years from now. But one thing is very well across all sports. A defensive player can become talented offensively much more likely and much quicker than an offensive player can become talented defensively. I've seen plenty of times the defensive guys in basketball go out and develop their bag and turn into monsters offensively. I've never seen the offensive monster go out and say, you know what? I'm going to be the defensive player of the motherfucking year. And that just doesn't – that never happens.
Let me ask this. With Tyler Hero, because we said Jaylen Brown a couple times. Alex, you're saying Jaylen Brown defense or whatever. If you had an option, because some people brought this up, because as soon as Jaylen Brown's name came up in that report, he tweeted, shaking my head. And, we're like, oh, there it is. Some players pissed off, linked to Miami. So let me just say it this way. If you had a choice right now between Tyler Hero and Jaylen Brown, who you take?
Oh, I take Jaylen Brown right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Now let me answer the Tyler Hero thing.
Okay.
Because 2 points. The comparisons to Whiteside. Before Whiteside signed here, there was a case, and everywhere he went that he was problematic, that he had issues with commitment, he had issues, behavioral problems. He wasn't focused. He didn't care about his career. We knew this. When have you heard something negative in regards to Tyler Hero? And I'm not talking about the press. I'm talking about actual coaches, players. When have you heard anything negative that Tyler Hero is now one of the hardest workers they've seen? There's no question with this commitment. People try to put the Miami lifestyle and he's flashy, this and that. He can build his brand. I don't mind. But no one questions Tyler with his work ethic, with what he wants to improve as a player. I'm not saying he's going to be the best the defensive stud. He's not going to be defensive player of the year, but he can become a better defender. He's already a decent team defender. When he bulks up a little bit, he could be a better defender. But Tyler Hero has something that other players might not have, because I understand the comparisons and defense wins championships. When you have offensive repertoire that Tyler Hero has is not only about coaching, it's about natural talent. He's a natural shooter. He's a natural scorer. He's a pure scorer. Other players have to work and develop and kind of have their tenacity, like, oh, he's a corner three-pointer. He has a good pull-up game. No. Tyler Hero can score from any space, any area in the floor. Tyler Hero can score from range, up close, and he's a great finisher. So offensively, there's very few things that you have to teach. You can refine things, you can practice, but he's a natural offensive talent, which in this team, the way it's set up with Butler, Bam, that is exactly where you will flourish. That's why I told Bobby last year, I think Tyler Hero is going to lead the team in scoring. He finished second. But this team is built, last year's team was built, for Tyler Hero to flourish. This team, if it continues the trajectory, he will flourish offensively.
This was the year to flourish. What can he do in the playoffs?
Dude, he was hurt. Why do we continue talking about the playoffs? Like,
what about the playoffs last year? That's 2 years in a row.
No. Playoffs last year against the Bucks, though. The team we couldn't do anything.
In a row, Alex. So now this is a guy that can't score.
Okay, but Juan, we can be decent. 2 years ago, we lost to the Bucks. The Bucks are the NBA champions that year. That team was broken. We got swept. We couldn't do anything offensively. Jimmy couldn't do anything offensively. That team, we were offensively a mess. Huh?
Jimmy was out there by himself. Nobody could do anything because Jimmy was out there by himself. Like,
exactly.
Nobody showed up.
Exactly.
Blame Jimmy for that.
So, okay.
No. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying, scheme-wise.
All right. So, Juan, Alex named a few names there. I mean, let's go. He said Carmelo, but Blake Griffin was reported. Montrezl Harrell as a team Heat are considered favorites to sign. You brought up John Collins. Alex said Harrison Barnes. Jimmy Butler possibly at the 4. So let's put your positive cap on for just a second. Let's pretend you're running Miami right now.
Find it, Juan. Find that positive cap. Well, I don't know what the hell it is, but find it.
Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler. The 4 is empty. Bam Adebayo is your center. And then you got your backups there. So if you had control, what player do you think Miami could add into the 4? That I'm not talking Kevin Durant. I'm talking about available guys, or like you said, a John Collins or a Miles Turner. People didn't talk about him, but Miles Turner, that's a possible trade. Not you don't have to give up too much, but what would you say as an option? Alex brings up Barnes, Butler at the 4. Then who do you put at the 3? Carmelo. What are your options?
It's difficult for me. I mean, the best option would be John Collins, in my opinion, but the Heat they're in an awkward spot because the way the team is set up, they have way too little to give too much for a big time guy, and they don't, and they also don't have enough to go out there and get a piece of value to then keep on adding it, because if they get one piece of value, of decent value, then obviously KD's out the window, Donovan's out the window. But even then, like, we're getting a nice upgrade there. But then the rest of the players, you're going to have to go with filler the same way you would have done if you went KD. So even if you go lower the bar for a player who's still quality, like John Collins, I feel like what you have to give up for that type of player, you still have to give up a lot for a team that is not in a spot to give up too much. So, I mean, if I want to put my positive cap on, I say let's stop wasting our time and just lock in with what we have now. It is what it is. And see if we can make something happen by the trade.
That's the most unpositive cap I've ever seen in my life. It is what it is, man.
What fucking you do? Fuck it. No. What the hell, let me just say this. Can I say something? One, I brought up John Collins a while back in one of our earlier episodes before the KD situation popped off. I love the idea of John Collins. I think he would fit perfectly on this roster. I don't think you actually do it. I mean, I understand the concept of Rudy Gobert, so I'm not arguing with you. But beforehand, if you want to say before that trade, Duncan Robinson, a couple draft picks, maybe another, because you give up Duncan, you still have Strus, you still have Tyler, you've got Victor, Vincent, you still got a decent. If you add John Collins with those guys, and we haven't talked about this kid. We were pretty damn excited about this young kid when we drafted him, Nikola Jovic. don't sleep on him. And I'm not saying as a starter. Do not get me wrong when I'm saying that. What I'm saying is, as an important piece to this roster going forward, with this current roster, you add in that piece as he continues to grow, as he continues to mature. He's not going to be the starter, but the times he does get those minutes in with Jimmy on his ass, pushing him, with UD, with Spo, with those guys. Again, how, Juan, I told you, and I was telling Alex that day, you guys know how excited I was about this potential of this draft and this kid. And then we got him. Juan, you didn't know him. You were sold before the draft. We got him. And, he had one impressive game, but it wasn't too much to kind of get people sold on him. But I truly believe in the potential of this kid. And I will say that I'm sorry?
In the future.
Sure.
Yeah.
But even this year, a key piece as he grows. And let me just say this. So let's just say you're right. Let's say they do get a John Collins, or let's say they don't do that. Let's say they go and they sign Blake Griffin to a cheap deal, or they go and get Carmelo and he's rotating with another guy on the roster, and then you don't count Jovic. We don't know him. We don't know what he can offer just yet. What if he does offer that? And I know that's my positive cap line, but that's why I don't think if we don't get KD, we don't get Mitchell, which both guys weren't available to start at the end of the offseason, at the start of the offseason. We didn't know that. We were talking about John Collins. We were talking about other options. So this team, the question was at the end to close the show, and that's where we're going here, was should this team run it back with the current roster and adding a mid-tier type piece? And how would that translate in the Eastern Conference? My opinion on it, because we haven't talked about him, and I just wrote his name down because it just popped in my head because we haven't. That's a key piece that we're not thinking about, what potential this kid might have, because he's played in a pro league, and he's going to have this offseason training camp with Jimmy, with Kyle, who's probably going to be in the best shape of his life. He already looks amazing. Bam has a chip on his shoulder, wants to be Defensive Player of the Year. And, I think that's a key piece, plus whoever you sign. Whoever that 4 is going to be. And again, I'm not for Caleb Martin at the 4, and I love Caleb Martin. I'm very happy that we got him back. I don't know about Jimmy at the 4. I know he played 4 in some spot, but I'm talking about the starting 4 going forward, because I don't know who you put at the 3. I'm saying that you got Jimmy at the 3, and then you go sign a veteran 4, as you were saying, Juan, just like we did with Tucker. Go get a 4, but then you still have the potential of Jovic, the potential of Tyler, whether you believe it or not. I know Alex does. And then, of course, if Bam takes that next step. If he's the same passive Bam that he was in the playoffs, I'm going to be very concerned. If he takes that next step and he's aggressive, and I know, Alex, you're going to tell me, and I say the same thing. There's things he does that people don't pay attention to. He spreads the floor, passing the ball, opening lanes, et cetera, et cetera. Absolutely. But there are times he needs to be aggressive. There are times that he needs to take that shot. There's a times that he should be able to take over a game. He has it in him. He doesn't do it, though. And only sometimes where, by magic, he does it. If he could do that, then I think that he are okay. I'm not going to say that they're going to be back to number 1 seed. That's fool's gold. As Juan would say, things have to happen a certain way. I don't think that's how it was last year. I said my prediction at the beginning of the year, we weren't doing the show then, or a Goon Squad, was Heat Warriors. It almost happened because I thought the Heat had a very balanced roster. They still have the potential to be that. So if the Durant trade doesn't happen, as long as they get a veteran 4 who goes into the Heat system, I'm going to be okay with that. Now, if they go with the 4 with the options they have now, I'm going to be a little more worried. They have to go get a veteran 4, and more than likely Duncan's going to be traded because that contract. Because you got Strus. You can't keep Strus, Duncan, Victor, and Tyler. It doesn't make sense. Final responses.
So, now it's like when we find ourselves, like how the tables have turned, we find ourselves at different ends of the spectrum. I know you guys want change now, and a few weeks ago, you didn't mind running it back. But now the way I'm looking at it and the way the market has shifted, how bad would it be running it back if the plan is to, start the season running it back, but not finish the season that way? One of the things, and Bobby, you kept saying is like Katie has to come out and speak out. One of the reasons I think Katie has not come out and spoke out before is because he said he wants out of Brooklyn, but he never said he wouldn't play for Brooklyn if he can't find his way out. So
Keyword, good point.
so that's very, because people think, oh, he wants out, relationship is broken. Like they're looking at it now, and I'm sure KD knows he's a very hard asset to trade. He pretty much knows how the optics look at him switching teams to going on 3 times within the last 4 years. So KD understands that. And if I'm Miami, I think you're getting a really good value on betting that Brooklyn is gonna implode even more. You're looking at Brooklyn and you're saying, letting them sink if they want to. They don't think they can sink, and it's like, all right, we can keep our foot on their neck, and you squeeze and you squeeze, and at some point they either fade out and they lose all their value, and KD just like burns all his bridges, and looks like, and Brooklyn looks like a clown show, or they say, all right, it's time to give up. We lost some value. We tried to bet on ourselves, but we lost, and that's it. Because yeah, John Collins is a great piece to have and great addition, but yeah, and we get rid of Duncan. But if I'm Atlanta, I don't just want a bad contract. I'm gonna want some value as well, probably like a pick or a player,
Sure, absolutely.
even if it's not high value. So Miami would be a little bit better, but it wouldn't be enough to really move the needle. So why not keep all our assets intact, going into the season, knowing that, hey, if we added a little bit of more pieces, or we kept this thing the same, we're probably going to get about really as far. So keep this in mind. Wait for these teams to see how their season goes. And if KD and Kyrie don't work out in Brooklyn, which is likely that they don't, the Heat can go in and make the move, probably save one player or a pick or two.
Let me just say this very quick, Alex, before you do the final word, and then we'll close this out. Oh God, I hope I get his name right. Greg Salvador, one of the very good Heat insider,
Sylvander.
Thank you. He brought up a point because he said this a couple of years back. I don't think nobody should sign to a max contract. That's just me. But defensive player, etc. He's a 4. Draymond Green, saying he wants a max deal, whatever. He pointed this out, was that Miami has shown interest in Green in the past, and Green in the interest is mutual. I don't know, contract's a whole other story, but if he was available, or if we could get him on a deal that makes sense, that $16 million or a little more, to make him a little more, how do you think he fits with the Heat?
No, him and UD would kill each other a weekend.
Alex,
I think he fits fine. I really do. Not only championship experience, he slides right into. He can.
I agree. I think he would
defensively,
too.
Everything.
I think he would too.
I don't see it happening though.
The money is my close, is my X on that. But when I saw
Draymond Green's a way more talented PJ Tucker.
Oh, of course, I think
No, but I'm saying when people compare PJ Tucker wise,
he would do wonders. He would do wonders with Bam Adebayo defensively. I mean, they would eat that up, and that might be Adebayo's best chance to be Defensive Player of the Year in my opinion.
Do you guys watch Draymond the final?
Yeah,
that's fine. I mean, you got to remember who's killing in that finals. I mean, and that's the thing. We don't need him to be. I mean, he just again.
I mean, Draymond's going to be a Hall of Famer for a lot of the stuff he's done now, but and at this point, I think he's still a quality player. But I think he's more intangibles than tangibles at this point in his career. Wouldn't you guys?
Yeah, agree? Absolutely, yeah, 100%. That's what he said. What will we fit? And I tell you, I'm a believer.
I'm against it on contract. I'm not against it on bringing him. If Miami found a way to add him without depleting the roster or whatever, then I'm sorry I didn't bring this up earlier, and I know I was going to close it out, but I just remembered right now, and I wrote it down, and that's why I went ooh. But I'm not against it. If he can figure that out, I think he would be a good fit. I mean, he's not an offensive juggernaut. Obviously, he's not offensive anything, but defensively, championship experience, as you said, like Lowry, what type of shape he can come in a Miami Heat type of organization for a couple seasons. I'm with Jimmy. I think that's pretty. I like it. Go ahead, Juan.
Yeah, well, one very important thing to note, he does have championship pedigree, but a big part of that championship pedigree is sitting down to see what Steve Kerr and Steph Curry are gonna do on the floor, and it's like, all right, Draymond, you're gonna do this. So it's like, all right, let's slow it down. With
Oh,
Kyler, it's a little
man.
bit different because he pulled the strings, and he kind of had like a killer robot that is Kawhi, and he kind of like programmed that robot to do what he wants. And you need a leader to be able to like program guys like that. I don't know if I'm rolling all the way with Draymond doing all that.
Gotcha. Alex, final word, brother, and close it out.
Okay, I'm gonna try to wrap it up as quickly as possible. Comparisons to what you mentioned, John Collins, Bob, like you mentioned, he won't cost too much. In my opinion, he's gonna catch you a salary match and a few first round picks because Atlanta has been trying to trade him for a few years now. Well, we got to be realistic. Even the style of play, which I think he will benefit with Murray and Young, but Atlanta has been trying to trade him for a few years. I don't know the relationship up to what point. They have drafted players that play his position that are similar to him that are on good deals. So they try to move him. So cost-wise, that won't be an issue. But I'm going to say this. Even with Collins, even with everything, I don't think people really analyze the situation that the Heat are in because of the Durant and the Mitchell rumors and us pursuing them and us falling the game short. We're not in bad shape as an organization. Championship contending. Jimmy Butler obviously is 31-32. People have this thing that we have to win next year, if not Jimmy. Jimmy Butler still has 3, 4, 5 years of good basketball, great basketball in him. He knows basketball. And I'm sure he's going to go all in also for Kevin Durant. But if we don't get a KD, we are going to get certain pieces with a change in offensive philosophy. We have personnel, like Bobby mentioned with Jovic. You're going to be, still to me right now, and people might call me crazy. I guess I just see it differently. We're still a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. I'm not saying first seed or second seed, but we're a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference that I will put even the roster the way it is right now, even without PJ Tucker, with the new developments, with a healthier Vic. People forget we have put Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, and Tyler Hero, just those 3 alone, against the top 3 of every other team.
Jimmy and
compare
a prayer,
them.
man. There's still Jimmy and a prayer.
I look, Juan, I understand circumstances and team and the development. I'm just saying right now, with the development of this team, we're going to be perennial contenders for years to come, even if we don't acquire KD.
I hope you're right.
Even if we don't acquire KD, man. But that's just me. I might be wrong, and KD might be a Heat tomorrow. I'm doubtful, but
you said you were going to make it quick, and you were full of shit. You lied. Okay, so I mean, Jesus. I mean, I'm like waiting there.
I love you.
5,
I love
10
you.
minutes. All right, guys. Hey, you were watching the Goon Squad on the Fins Talk Network. We had Juan and Alex, myself, Bobby. You can follow me at Bobby Fins Talk on Twitter. You can follow the show at Fins Talk Network. Follow Alex at AJ_Tia. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
And then at Third Juan. Juan does multiple things. He's a co-host on the Goon Squad. He's also a Dolphins columnist for the Fin Fanatic. So make sure you follow him and you see the latest on the Dolphins. Dolphins had a great training camp start.
Training camp is back. Woo!
And the
Terminator.
If you're a Dolphins fan, tomorrow we got a brand new show on the Fins Talk Network with Mike, the Hebrew Hammer Brown, and his dad, Lewis, as Bottoms Up, Fins Up, a new show for the Fins Talk Network. And then, of course, Fins Talk today on Saturday with myself and Hank. But, guys, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button. We will see you next Wednesday for the Goon Squad. Till next time.